Boom. Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Man, my friend Elena, we know each other for years. I'm actually the Teal Santa on her Christmas in July, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We always have to be in the Christmas spirit. I can't wait to introduce you to Elena Rodriguez. How are you doing today, Elena?
Oh my gosh, David, I'm doing amazing. Thanks so much for having me. And yes, Mr. Teal Santa, you got to kick our show off every year.
I love it, man, because I really do believe that we have to have Christmas every day, and I'm Jewish, so it's but it really is that mentality. And how did you? Let's tell some of your story. Introduce yourself, because all the things that you do, man. Between the makeup company, the Prospera Network, I want people to know who Elaine is, and then we'll dive deeper.
Sure thing. There's a lot. Yes, I'm Elena Rodriguez. I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I do like to say there is more than corn in Indiana, but I'm the CEO and founder of Show Your Crown Enterprises. And Show Your Crown Enterprises houses many things, but it all came from one night where God said, remember who you are, remember whose you are. Now boldly step forward, show your crown. So at that time, I really had no idea what he was referring to. I thought he was telling me to, like, rebuild my confidence and self-esteem. But I do have Show Your Crown Enterprises. And through that, we have Besitos Beauty, which, if you don't know, Besitos is little kisses in Spanish. And that started as just a lipstick company, and that was to rebuild confidence and self esteem. And that was after I had discovered a 5 year affair after my husband passed away. And lipstick was my superpower. It was the thing that even if I was in my pajamas and didn't want to get up and face the day, if I got up and I put my lipstick on, it was like, girl, you can do this. And so I thought, well, if it does that for me, maybe it can do that for other women. So that's one line of my business. And then I have a book series and event called Surrender to Rise. And that's where I help other people share their surrender moment, their surrender story. And we give all praise to our GOD. Because most likely, if you've had a surrender moment, you're called to do something with it. And for a lot of people, that's starting a business of some sort. I have Surrender to Rise book series. And then the last piece of Show Your Crown Enterprises is Prospera TV Network. So I have a streaming network that we do live streaming, but then we also have television on Roku. And so I help people get their message out. And all of that is part of my Crown Builder framework. And I actually teach my framework to other people that are building businesses of their own. So yeah, I stay busy.
Definitely keep busy, and I also don't want it to go, because I know part of that story about you finding about the infidelity in your marriage, but you did something also that shows who you are. I don't know if you want to just share it, or I'm going to tell it.
Yeah.
And so, I've experienced infidelity in a relationship, and I know how it brings, it could bring anybody to their knees, but how you and I did something similar, but your husband had passed away, and that's sort of how you found out about the experience. And you also walked up to the woman who he had, and not in a way, like, you girl, what,
No.
you did it out of kindness and out of your heart.
Yeah.
I That tells me so much more about Elena than anything else that we might know.
Thank you. So I had been married and it was my second marriage. Okay. But I had known him, gosh, I went to school with his sister in kindergarten. So,
Mm.
and his older brother graduated with my sister. So we knew each other like our whole lives. So then when we came back into each other's lives and decided to get married, we had been together about 8 years, but we were only married 2. By the time he had a heart attack, he was 49 and I found him having his heart attack. And so he ended up being in the ICU for 25 days. I lived in that hospital room for 25 days, and it turned into a massive stroke that finally let me know, all right, it's time to turn the machines off. And he ended up passing on Christmas Eve of 2018. Coming home Christmas Eve morning, having been at the hospital for 25 days, like we didn't have any food. There was no Christmas light. Christmas is my favorite time of year, and there was just nothing. And even as a mom, that's like a whole nother level of feeling like a failure, you know? I mean, everybody's sad, everybody's been stressed out, and now it's Christmas time and there's no Christmas. So that happened on Christmas Eve 2018. What followed very quickly after is I started discovering that basically I'd been married to a stranger, and which I think that hurt the most was I'd known him my whole life. So I discovered liens against the house. I lost property. I mean, it got worse and worse and worse. And then 9 months goes by, like after I'm discovering these lies, this financial debt, all of this kind of unknown. And then after 9 months goes by, I ended up discovering a 5 year affair. And when I say 5 years, like I said, we were together 8. She was in the picture for 5. We had only been married 2. So when I discovered like this whole text message string, she was texting on our wedding day and asking if she should send a gift to through our registry. I mean, it was just ugly. It was ugly, but she had been in my home 2 days prior to me finding out as well. So I knew her, I knew of her. I had no idea that there was an affair going on. But when I discovered this, I actually prayed for her. I actually prayed for her because I knew that there's no way, whether you're in the shadows or not, that you can be with somebody for 5 years and not feel their loss. And the first thing I thought of was, did did anybody know? Like, who knew? I didn't even know. Like, do people know about her? Does she have a shoulder to cry on? Is she holding all of this grief inside? Like, I thought about that. And so I just chose to pray for her, but I never made a big deal about it. I never, there was nothing that could be said. He was gone. And so to me, I had a choice to make. I either let this fester and become a toxic bomb inside of me and let it kill me from the inside out, or I just give it to God and say, like, you allowed me to discover this for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do the best that I can do with it and turn it into something positive. And that's what I chose to do. And I ended up creating the Christmas Widow, which was started as a nonprofit. Now it's not a full-blown nonprofit. We just kind of keep it small and do things like here locally because I just don't have that capacity. Like we talked
Yeah,
about
yeah, the
doing a
bandwidth,
million
right?
things.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yep.
tough.
Yep. But to me, it's still about supporting a newly widowed family and the children, picking one every Christmas and being able to do something to just relieve, whether it be a bill, bring some gifts to the kids. We've done community Christmas parties that we've brought Santa Claus in and taken photos for free for, these kids just to do something fun and just bring that magic and the blessings that Christmas can bring. And for these kids to not understand why only one parent is sitting around the Christmas tree. I mean, that part chokes me up like every
Yeah,
time.
I've worked with a charity here on the island called Camp Mourning, spelling MOUR,
Mm,
for siblings who have lost their, children who have lost their siblings.
mm,
And your heart goes out. I remember, in fact, growing up, there was a police officer who was shot, and I helped the family, and the mother, it was a neighbor, and they were like, "Thank you for being there at that time." They had enough. It's that the blue wall. They support each other so well,
yeah,
but it's always nice to have other people there as levels of support.
yeah. I'll never forget the one that it was our first community party that we did, and you could tell one of the moms brought her 2 sons. They had lost their dad, and the one was the one was younger and he was just, loving on everybody and having a great time. But that one that was a little bit older was kind of at that stage where he was just like angry, quiet, too cool for school. He was just very to himself. And by the end of the party, to be able to see that light, come up, in him again. It just made it worth it. And then my son, we went and bought gifts, for those boys and went to her house and just sat with them and had time with them. And it was really cool to see him open up because he could understand that we understood, what they were going through, but we were there for no other reason than to just like spread love and light and bring some fun and cheer because it's tough. So,
Yeah, I can't imagine.
yeah.
I just can't imagine. But so you do a lot of giving.
Mhm.
You give your heart. I mean, you gave that woman, who it wasn't. Yes, it was her fault. I'm not trying to,
Mhm.
but somebody who was you knew the experience. I mean, that's why when I found out about the cheating, and I started dating again, I had
Mhm.
gone over to the house one time. I saw my kids and I saw the gentleman and I knew, and as much as the actions broke my heart. I
Mhm.
walked over and I shook his hand and I said, "Good luck to you." There's a level of grace, and people go, "No, you didn't do that." I go, "I did." Look, in your situation, it was so much more grace
Yeah.
to do that because
Yeah. I think that comes from faith, though. To me, I had to look at it as I had to look at the blessings because to me, yeah, I found out 9 months later, right? But I like to say that God laid everything down gently for me because I think if I'd have gotten everything all at once, like I don't know if I would be here. And I say that because it was hard. Like it was all the pieces along the way were excruciating that if I'd have gotten them all at once, I may have just given up. And so I chose to look at, okay, God laid it down gently. There's a reason, but he still needed me to find out. He still needed me to see this. And so I had to make a decision at that time. I did go to my deceased husband's funeral or his gravesite because don't you know it took that many months for his headstone to be placed. So the
yep,
moment
yeah.
that I'm finding out about this affair, I get the phone call that like, hey, we've got your husband's, headstone. And I'm just like, oh, impeccable timing, right? And so I did. I went out there. I took my Kleenex. I sat on the wet ground and said what I needed to say and also forgave him and but also told him I will never be back. And I had to let it go. And but I did. I let him know what I needed and but I did say I will never be back here. And I've not ever gone back there.
How much power does that give you? I think that's so powerful that we all need to do. That's why I don't want that to be missed.
Hmm.
Is when you've made a decision to really stand true in your decision and your power, because I'm sure there's plenty of times when you've stepped into your power, but that's a very powerful moment in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, there's times it still hits. Like it's weird because there was a time just not too long ago that I felt like I got emotional all over again. Like out of nowhere. I was driving down the road and went past our old house, and it's like all of a sudden everything was like brand new again. And so I can't say it ever fully goes away, but to me, I share this story. I shared it when I found out. I knew that there would be backlash, there would be judgment, there would be hatred, there would be anger, there would be all sorts of things. I had my proof, and I know that God chose to show that to me because He knew I would do something with it. I would show grace, I would show forgiveness. And I think there's a lot of people, men and women, that are still in the pain. And I feel like pain is so, like you hear a lot of times pain to purpose, pain to
Right.
purpose. And I don't believe that. I do believe there's pain and it's incredibly powerful. And it has the power to push you forward into your purpose, or it has the power to hold you stuck right where you are for the rest of your days because we all have experienced pain, but not everybody can say they're living their purpose. So I don't believe it's pain to purpose. And so I know that God created me this way to go through this excruciating experience because I could speak on the beauty that pain can hold if you choose to do something positive with it. And that's the only reason I feel I found out about it because I didn't have to. I mean, God took 9 months, I think, to decide, is
So
she
you were ready,
ready or
right?
is she not? Yep.
And I
Hmm.
believe that God brings us to certain points in our life to give us a lesson. Sometimes it's a little nudge, and sometimes it's a little bit more forceful.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was a little bit more forceful, but he knew that you could handle it, and that grace that
Yeah.
you and what you've done is you've turned it into so much.
Hmm.
That one negative part, and I really want to talk more about the celebration
Hmm.
because how do you get out of that? How did you get out of it to turn it into this, Christmas in July, knowing that it's so powerful to share that joy, in the middle of July when we might be looking for beaches and things like that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the whole mission behind the Christmas Widow, to me, I just think of the kids. I just think of the kids that are going through a holiday without a parent and they don't know why. So it doesn't even have to be grief in one passed away. I mean, your parents, I come from divorce, so just knowing that a child is sitting and experiencing a joyful time and their parents are not together, that's a really hard thing. So when I came on to thinking like, okay, since Christmas is my favorite time of year, I think it's like magical. I'm one that makes all these Christmas goodies. I love white lights. I like, there's ornaments hanging from my chandelier and all the, like, I'm one of those that looks like Christmas like threw up all over the place, right? And that year, it was like a skeleton, a dark haunted house. Like it was
Sure.
just, and I didn't like that feeling. And I thought, okay, I have to fight to make this a joyous time. I can't let this ruin this year after year after year, and especially for my kids, especially for my sons. And so I worked really hard to honor that it now, like, it's a complex of emotions. It really is, because I loved my husband and the grief was real and I missed him and it devastated me to lose him. And then on the very same thought, you get angry and it's just like, but you cheated on me, so it's very complex and I go through it every year and it's okay. I allow myself to go through it, but for me, I just think about the kids and I'm like, we have to make this a positive experience for the kids. However, coming from that adult side of the betrayal, of the grief, I wanted to do something that really spoke to those adults that are in a dark time in their life. And if they just hold on long enough, the light will come back on. If they just keep going, the pain will lessen. And so, as I was thinking about the Christmas widow, I'm like, how can I bring hope and awareness just into the world in general? And then that's where I came up with the Circle of Hope, which to me is HOPE, help one person every day. And so, as I'm like thinking, how do we bring hope into the world? And no kidding, I'm on my exercise bike and the Jerry Lewis telethon popped in my head from like when I was a little girl. And I cracked up because I'm like, okay, God, I know, again, I just always think God's talking to me all the time. So I was like,
Sure.
okay, God, like, why in the heck is Jerry Lewis telethon in my head right now? And the way that I work with business and my innovation within a day, I had the concept of a 24-hour live stream-a-thon, but what better time to do it than Christmas in July? And so, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of came into my head, and I don't sit on ideas long. I got to roll with it. And now this year, we're going to have our fifth annual Christmas in July stream-a-thon, and I stay on for 24 hours live and bring guests on from around the globe. And all we do is create that circle of hope. And we spread just our own personal stories or little nuggets or inspiration, and just remind somebody that no matter how bad it is, it will get better if they just keep going. And that's really where it came from.
Yeah, no, I love that because it is hopeful. I mean, that's where, you know, listening to those messages of hope, and we all need that. It helps rewire our brains in a way that some other things. And the Christmas Widow project, you know, you showing that you're not alone. That's sometimes when we go through our darkness, it does feel alone, especially when you have lost a partner and there's so much. I don't know. I've lost partners through divorce, but
Yeah.
not as a widower, which
Mhm.
I'm glad, but it still is devastating, and that you still look for the light.
Mhm.
John Lennon, has a saying, and I'm going to probably mess it up a little bit, but whenever there's trouble, look for the helpers,
Mhm.
because those are the people you want to always surround yourself with.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you know to pick the right people? I mean, you trusted me. We knew each other a little bit, but in the 5 years, I think the past three of them I've
Mhm.
been part of, sponsoring as well as the Teal Santa.
Yeah.
How do you know who to trust? With this message, it's
Yeah.
not just like another stage that people
Mhm.
get to talk on.
Well, it's funny that you asked that because there there have been people who I know once they have gotten on, it has been just a stage. I feel it,
Yeah,
right? I feel it. But I'm the type that also is like, okay, if they felt drawn to be a part of this, then they need to be a part of it. And to me, it's if they keep it surface level and they keep it more professional, they're the ones that are missing out. That's all I can say. If you showed up and that's how you used your time, then that's how you used your time. But I am like, you really missed the purpose and the heart behind it. But I don't really vet it and filter it that much. To me, it's like, hey, if people are called to be a part and they get their time, then it's up to them to do with it what they want. And I share with them what it means to me and what it's about. But for some, it's still just been a plug of business, and I get them on and off real fast.
yeah, okay, I hear you. I mean, that's why I've always loved your message, and that's why when I show up, I try to make it lighthearted, but always coming in with a message
Uh,
that of hope, and moving forward, and you know it's just what we do, right?
yeah.
That's where I always teach people with the speaking, respect the stage. Don't
Mhm.
just use a stage.
Mhm.
Respect whose stage you're on and why. If they chose you or you were called to do it, but why were you done that? I tell you, that never works.
It never works. And I'll tell you, there was one year that I asked her if she wanted to come on, and she was just like, I haven't really done anything important. Like she didn't feel very good about herself at all. And I said, well, just, watch and be part of this. I wasn't going to push her. But the beauty of it was when she started being touched by these other stories that people were sharing that hope and inspiration, she had messaged behind the scenes and she's like, I realized I have done something. So I brought her on live. I had no idea, what she was going to talk about, but she ended up talking about one of her friends that was going to commit suicide, and she was there, like however it happened, but she stopped it, like it didn't happen. And through all of that, she's like, I have never looked at the impact that I was that important, that I was that vessel. And, she never wanted to take that credit. And it's like, it's not about taking the credit, it's simply honoring, that something beautiful ended up happening out of something that could have been tragic. And it's because you walked in or you were there. And so watching that actually unfold live, like her talking about this for the first time, she had held it in for so long, but it was almost like she felt special, like she felt that importance. And I thought that right there, if out of the rest of the 24 hours that be the only thing that like happens, then then that was its purpose this year. So to me, everyone has their time slot, but everybody also has the power to do with it what they want. And I just watch back and let it happen. So,
Well, I think that's the fun part for you, hopefully, just
yeah.
to sit back and let it happen. But there's a lot of responsibility,
Yes,
you know,
there
a
is.
leader. I mean, the same thing with, you know, if that was the only thing you did, you know, that would be enough, right? So all these
Mhm.
things that you do, but you also have the Prospera Network.
Yeah.
Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about that. What made you decide that you wanted to run your network and the voices? I mean, in fact, I don't know if you knew or you saw yesterday, Jamal
Mhm.
Cultrell. I interviewed. You know, because I saw him talking to you, and I love the mental wellness part of his story. I contacted him, and he was one of the episodes of my podcast that I
Nice.
recorded and released yesterday.
Nice, nice. I haven't caught it, but he's amazing and he's on the network and we're doing a lot of work. So how that happened is okay, with me being business, I'm always about business building. You got to get in front of people. People need to know who you are. And I always had a show of my own. Like for years I've done my own show and I was on another network. And then that person was like leaving this big platform and starting their own. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go this way, but I think I'm going to start a channel so I can help other people do the same. Well, just the timing and the way that things worked out, God said no. He said, you need to protect what I'm giving you. That was the only instruction I got. Protect what I'm giving you. And so I knew the only way that I can protect it is if I make sure I house it so that I can filter who's attached to it, who comes through it, but what kind of messages. Like that's what I knew he was saying is protect this. I had never even thought of starting my own streaming network. It was not my dream. It was not my vision until he said, protect what I'm giving you. And so it's been a year. I dove into research. I learned a lot. I tested a lot and contacted people that I knew I trusted that, you know, would believe in me too. We started this. The next thing you know, we're at like 21 show hosts and we're on Roku. We do have a YouTube channel, but now we're evolving more. We're bringing on more live TV and then it will repurpose up to Roku, but it's really all about I know that when God calls you to something through my crown builder framework, I know that there are people that have a message. Some are structure builders, some are spark builders, some are momentum builders, but those that are message builders, they have their story is how they serve people. And I'm just a platform that helps them filter that and gets their message out. But I like to drive it to how they build their business because I'm all about building a business. And so I just started it. Prospera came from the words prosper and era. So Prospera is a Spanish word all on its own, but I wasn't even thinking of it from that term. If to me, I just took Prosper era and put it together and we had Prospera. And so just like anything else I do, I don't sit in on an idea for long and I put it in motion and now we're set. We've been on the air for a year and that's it.
So how do you have that determination? I mean, you know, you and I talk about God a lot. What does that relationship look like? Because for me, I always go back to that. You know, that no matter what, that if today's the last day that I'm here and I have to meet my maker, there's a lot of things I'm not proud of, but the part that I am proud of are the things that I didn't do well earlier that now I won't tolerate myself doing again. You know, that integrity, that part that I'm in a room, only me and him, and you know, or her, or the energy. What does that look like for you? And how do you use that for yourself?
I think it's amazing because looking back, I feel like, and to me, it's my GOD, okay, my grand overall designer. So, and to me, he's my main man. But I feel like he's always been with me. Like when I look back at my childhood, I was always different. I was always the serious one, the rule follower, the in-depth one. When all my cousins were older than me, they still came to me. I was like the wise one. So there's always just been this steady, solid, calm, collected thing about me. And I really feel that that's been God as an anchor, whether I knew that's what it was or not. And so as I grew up, my dad left when I was very young, and I never knew the term abandonment until like 3 years ago. Like it was almost like this aha moment that's like, oh my gosh, I suffer from abandonment. And I never put two and two together. I never knew that. But I think very early I just learned to lean on God. And so he's always been my constant. And, I ran away from home. I barely graduated. Like I partied, my 13th birthday. Like I did all these terrible things, but yet I just always knew he was there. And so, you go through those years where you're lost, you don't know what you're going to do. And, you try this, you try that. But there just came this point where I heard his voice
Mhm.
and like literally like heard his voice. And the only way that I can just describe it is so firm and powerful, yet so gentle. And he allowed me to experience things that I cannot deny. Like they changed my life. And from one moment in particular, I have never been the same. And nothing scares me because I know he's there.
Yeah.
Nothing can hurt me to the point that I know he can't heal me. So I think that's why he chooses me sometimes. If he needs something in motion, he's like, let's give her the idea because she'll have it ready to go like tomorrow. So
Yeah, there's definitely a confidence in that. That's why when I was just going through my medical situation, I said, God, if it's my time, it's my time. I hope not, because give me a little more time. Give me,
yeah,
a couple of days, not negotiating, not begging, because when it's my time, it's going to be my time. He's not asking for my permission,
yes,
but I needed to make sure that my message has gotten back out there and made
yeah,
sure that some people are going to hear my message.
yeah,
And that's where my relationship, I'm one. I know what my faith is. I know that I'm very secure in my faith, and I'm also very secure in my relationship with God.
yeah.
I'm open to other points
Hmm.
of view,
Hmm.
but it's between me and God. We know the decisions we make and what's right and what's wrong, but just because we're wrong, that's what God gives us is free will.
Hmm. Free will.
That free will becomes so powerful because it also is replaced by love. That's the unconditional love that
Hmm.
when you make a mistake, when Dave makes a mistake, God will still love me.
Yeah,
And, you know, by my showing love back is that changed behavior.
yeah,
And that changed behavior becomes who I am, is that makes us closer to
yes.
what we're expected to our creator.
I wrote a book called Crowned by Faith just just the end of 2025. And the whole part of it is my life experiences through this, but the segment in every chapter is looking through the lens of God's love. So as the reader can see their own experiences and those things that did hurt them, or those things that maybe they aren't very proud of, or that could help them, or that could keep them hiding in shame, and just all these things. But what does it really look like through the lens of God's love? And I think when we can see some of these and realize what he is seeing, it's not anything that we are thinking that he is seeing. And so I think even just looking at things through the lens of God's love, that allowed me to pray for the other woman.
Mm,
That whatever they were going through, God can see what I can't see. And so I think I look at a lot of things from that perspective, where sometimes it works for me and sometimes it doesn't because I've had discussions. I don't know, maybe you have seen some of these. Sometimes people put on social media where, if your friend is doing something and you don't agree with it or, and I'm like, hey, I don't, unless somebody comes and asks me,
Right.
you do you, boo. Like
Yep.
you know, and some people are like, well, that's not a good friend and you should, and I'm like, but I don't know what God's doing for them. They need to decide. They need to make those choices and I will be there regardless. That's the difference. And some people agree with that and some people don't. But that's how I view it.
And no, 100%. It's one of those stories where, look, you do you and I do me. I remember when I was in, so I don't know that you know that I was a recovery coach. I help people,
Mhm.
and there was one night, and I've told the story a million times, that somebody came in. Hey, I just used. And I said, okay. Not happy, but okay. I'd rather you didn't, but you chose to do whatever you needed to do, and that's okay. But you're also here to help
Yeah.
yourself. So that's how, what a real mentor does is, you sit with them no matter what, and it's
Mhm.
their choices. It
Yes.
doesn't make you a bad person if they listen to you, or it doesn't make you a good person when
Hmm.
they don't,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with God. He gives us our free will and what we do with it. And at
Hmm.
the end, we get to do it. That's why, you know, I always talk about it. I believe the more that we talk about it, it gives us strength because not everybody likes to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big lessons in life that I've learned is talk about who you are if
Hmm.
it's who you are.
Hmm.
Don't, there's a lot of people also in our groups who use God as
Yeah.
yeah, I'm religious, I'm this, I'm that, but then doesn't live, don't live
Hmm.
according to the principles of what that means. And
Yeah.
that's okay. That's on them. I'm not here
Yeah.
to, I'm not the God police. I'm not the
Yeah.
anything police because I know the mirror that I look at is the man in my mirror I'm happy with.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've always been that way.
Yeah. No, me neither. I mean, even just, after discovering the affair, when people talk about that mirror work and stuff, I'm like, I can't even look at her. I blamed myself. How could I be so stupid? How did I not see this? How did, all these, why was I not good enough? Blah, 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 blah. And, it's a journey. But, to me, to go back to your point, yeah, I mean, God, I always think of like God doesn't love the millionaire more than he loves the guy that's like homeless sleeping on the
Right.
beach. He loves us all. So where we got thinking that, some sort of positioning or status makes us better in his eyes, I'm like, he's looking at who we are inside. And so all of the stuff like that's around, like it's great. Whatever your level of success or whatever you strive to achieve, like kudos, like do those things. But he loves because he loves. And so for me, the one thing that I keep in my mind all the time through no matter what I'm building, no matter what crazy idea pops in my head, like no matter what I choose to get started, is I always do everything with the spirit of excellence unto him. And that spirit of excellence completely removes the need for perfection, or it protects me from judgments that might come my way. Like I don't really care. Like what I say, don't like what I say. Like what I do, don't like what I do. But if I'm doing it with that spirit of excellence from the one who I know gave it to me, then I'm good. And that's what's helped me. Just kind of like, let's do it. See what happens. I
That
swear.
is wonderful, right? Just put your faith in and be fully all in.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna start wrapping up the episode, but
Yeah.
I always ask for people to step into my magic garden and what is gonna happen at the magic garden. I want you to plant. You've given us so much information, so many things to think about. To plant a seed that might grow right away, the magic seed, or something that'll grow in the future to sort of like advice, or you'd like to see grow in others. Could you think of something?
Yeah, and it's one that came to me right away. It was basically he says, stop wasting your precious time asking questions you know you will never receive answers to. And that came to me when I was beating myself up. Why wasn't I good enough? How was I so stupid? How did I get in this situation? Why, like, where did all my money go? How did there, like, I was asking, and he said, you are given life. You have minutes right now that I am putting in your lungs. Stop wasting your precious time asking these questions. You will never get answers to them, and you know you will never get answers to them. Use this time to do something with these precious minutes forward. And I think if we all sit with it for a little bit, sometimes we know we're asking questions that we know no matter different how many different ways we ask it or how many different side-eye ways we try to come in and see if we can get an answer, we're not going to get it. There is no answer for the question. And so that is just the one thing that I ask people, don't waste time on that, because our minutes are not promised. And so if we take care of the minute, the the minute will take care of the hour, and the hour will take care of the day, and it all just begins to take care of itself. But to me, that changed my life. So there are times where you might want to replay something, or something might ruminate in there. And it's like, why? You're not going to change the outcome. The answer's not going to, you're never going to either find it or it's not going to make a difference. So what do we do from here forward? What do we do with that? And that to me is just one that maybe you can plant a seed to somebody. Don't sit on those questions, but instead ask yourself, what are you going to do forward with your time?
That's awesome. That is so
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank
Now,
you.
how can everybody find you to work to get it or participate, sponsor? How can we get in touch with you?
The easiest way is on Facebook. Okay, I'm on Facebook all the time, Elena Rodriguez on Facebook. But if you go to showyourcrown.com, then you'll be able to reach me from there. And that is my website that houses like all of my business
Mhm.
stuff, but it's showyourcrown.com, and I can be
All right.
reached
Well,
there.
that's it. Thank you, my friend,
Thank
for
you.
coming on, sharing some of your wisdom, your story. I hope somebody, well, I know I've always been inspired by your story and hearing it and just thinking about it, the grace that you have. You're just, God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
Okay. And everybody else, as always, I want you to have peace and love in your life because that's a great foundation and build upon that. And when you bring a bat, remember, be awesome today. God bless you.